A very good evening and welcome to this edition of the Fourth Estate. Charles Mongo Shampagi. It's been an event-packed week, starting with a major conference on blockchain technology, and the President of the Republic of Uganda and the Governor of the Central Bank, Emmanuel Tumusime Mutebile, disagreeing on this new technology, the President embracing it, and the Governor urging caution. If somebody wants to read those details, they can find them in the East African, so we'll not be discussing that tonight. But it's also a week that ended with a major tragedy, a major accident in Kiriandongo district that officially, as of now, on Friday night, that accident was on Friday night, a bus belonging to Gaga coaches collided with a tractor and a lorry, killing 22 people. 8 were seriously injured and were airlifted and brought to Mulago, the army responding with a helicopter ambulance service. And the government, the Prime Minister, just today announced that there will be 3 days of national mourning, starting with today, Sunday, tomorrow, and Tuesday, to mourn the victims. Government also announced that for every person who was killed in this accident, the family will receive 5 million shillings to help with funeral arrangements, and also those who are injured, no, 3 million shillings. 5 million shillings, and then those who are injured will receive 3 million shillings to help with their treatment. Those who were listed were put in different hospitals across the country. The country is still in shock and in mourning on this major accident, which we'll discuss briefly before we move into a discussion on elections in Rukungiri and in Bujiri, which have caused new excitement about the electoral process. We'll be discussing that in a moment. Let me introduce the guests that I have tonight. One guest is missing, will be joining us shortly, but starting with, from the Forum for Democratic Change, its president, Patrick Amuriat Oboy Power. Very nice to have you, sir.
Thank you very much, Charles, for inviting me to the show. A good evening to you, viewers. I'm happy to be here again.
Thank you. We had you when you had just become president.
Yes, indeed. It's been quite a while since I was last in this studio, so it's really my great pleasure being here today.
In Africa, disappearing.
No. The FDC's president has been available. You don't have to be on the NTV studios to be available.
I just forgot to announce that the Democratic Party also did a reunion. I'm asking, we'll discuss that maybe on another occasion when we have the honchos from the Democratic Party to discuss that with us. We have Dr. Moses Kisa. Dr. Moses Kisa is a lecturer of political science at Northwestern University? No, Carolina now? North Carolina University in the United States.
Good evening, viewers, and welcome. Thank you, Charles, for inviting me to the show. It's always nice being back home and being back on the Fourth Estate.
Thank you. And of course, Onapito Ekomoloit, Corporate and Legal Affairs Director of Nile Breweries, AB InBev.
Good evening, viewers. Good evening, Charles.
I was joking that when we have the other guests join us, we could actually afford to do this show in Atesot. Because most likely the other guests will be speaking that same language, and we can do that show, which is a good thing. If we can, we should be able to do that. Your quick thoughts about this accident, Poa. Terrible accident. I have spoken to people, both in the Ministry of Work and particularly the officer in charge of the road sector. I spoke to one of the ministers in that department yesterday. Yes, the traffic police is trying to piece together exactly what triggered this accident. From the Prime Minister's statement earlier today, it appears a combination of things. Human error, the driver overspeeding, from what we're hearing, the roadworthiness of the vehicles involved in this accident, and of course, passengers who will not caution a driver if he's driving too fast.
Well, first of all, I would like, on behalf of the Forum for Democratic Change, to extend our most sincere condolences to bereaved families who have lost their dear ones, and also to wish those who are now in pain as a consequence of this particular accident quick recovery. With that said, I think really something is going wrong in this country in as far as road carnage is concerned. the case of Gaga coaches is not the first of its kind. Every day that passes, you find an accident is reported. It's really the extent of damage that it causes to human lives and to property that varies. And so really a reasonable government should by now have asked questions why this is happening. And after posing those questions, offering solutions to the teething problem of road accidents that have taken a lot of lives. 22 human beings just perishing like that is not a simple thing. In fact, even if it was just one soul,
it's still one too many.
That was lost. That we can't place a value to that. And so it's been decades of knowing what the cause of accidents in this country. Road accidents is to the government in power. But also, really, I think, gross negligence on the part of the authorities, people who are running the affairs of this country.
Boy, someone would ask, when you're discussing a tragedy like we just witnessed, aren't you simply politicking? What are you putting on the table and saying, this is what we need to do? Because previously, government was criticized for failing, especially on emergency response. That seems to have been dealt with in this particular accident because the Uganda People's Defense Forces, working with other departments of government, was able to quickly mobilize that helicopter airlift. And the question
Charles,
is, yes.
That's granted.
Yes.
But you know, why don't we stop the necessity of this being done? People running with 5 million shillings to give to the bereaved families, 3 million for those who are in hospital, flying a military helicopter to Kiriadongo to bring back the sick to Kampala. This all could have been avoided.
How?
If we were able to, anybody would know that time and again we have placed 80% of the causes of accidents on human error. People who operate vehicles on the roads, pedestrians who move on the roads. What is difficult to understand is that we as a country don't have a strategy to try and improve on the quality of road use or quality of drivers using roads.
Why should that be a responsibility of government when you drive, Dr. Kisa drives, Onapito drives, I drive? Why would you place that purely on the government instead of saying the drivers are Ugandans? When police launched Kaunyamu on Massacre Road, when it had become Massacre Road, as massacring people, there was an uproar. When people get arrested in this town for drink driving, there's an uproar of how police is handling it. Would you really place this?
You should remember that for anybody to drive a vehicle on the road, they have to be licensed. You see? The license that is given to a driver is evidence of the suitability of that driver to operate a vehicle on the road. That responsibility is given to government.
Okay.
It's not given to any other body, any other person.
Let me push it to the other panelists.
It's given to government. So if government is not giving enough money for road safety, which is the case, we have a huge budget, about 20.1% on infrastructure development related to roads. Very little of that goes to road safety. Very little of that goes to road maintenance. And when I talk about road maintenance, we are talking about road furniture as well.
Okay.
So some of these roads are not marked. And driving through them in the night is a terrible risk.
Dangerous.
I hear
if
you.
the road is not marked with reflective paint, the driver is lost. It's very difficult to navigate along those roads.
Okay, I hear you. Dr. Kisa.
Well, Charlie, I think Ndugu Amriat has a point in saying, what has government done to deal with the problem of road carnage in the country? Because the government is there to do certain things for and on behalf of the citizens. Otherwise, they would not have any need for having a government in place. So there are certain measures, regulatory measures that the government has to put in place that can check the conduct of individuals who are on the roads. All of us left to our devices, we can do all sorts of wrong things that hurt not just ourselves, but hurt others. A road is not used exclusively by one individual. A road is used by everybody. And so when I'm on the road and I'm not licensed to drive, and I'm not qualified to drive, I'm not competent to drive, I am endangering other people who are on the road. And it is the responsibility of the authorities to make sure that standards, systems, and rules are put in place, but more importantly, that they are enforced. When you drive on Ugandan roads, and for me now I have stopped, I don't drive at night at all. The moment it gets to 7 p.m., I don't drive. Precisely because you're going to be driving on a highway that lacks the most basic signposts directing you that.
How did you get here? On the border?
No, the highway. I did not come on the highway. I live nearby. So yeah, they actually, the whole of yesterday I was walking. I wasn't even able to drive. Kampala has become a place where you can't even drive. I was doing most of the walking. But I was saying that there are places on our highways where you don't know whether you are entering a bend.
But
okay?
Dr.
You don't know whether it is a place where you're supposed to overtake or not.
Yes, I hear you.
Yeah.
I hear you. Every new road that is commissioned in this country is commissioned with all the road signs on it.
Not all, Charlie. I disagree with you.
Just a moment.
Yeah.
The question is, the problem is, people selling scrap cut down these road signage.
Right.
So, I'm just wondering.
So there's a problem of society, of course.
Yes, I'm just wondering where we draw the line
between
behavior of the citizenry
it's not either,
and road
it's
user.
not either
yes,
or.
yes.
It's both. It's both. There is definitely a problem with all of us as Ugandans. There is a social problem, a problem of behavior, a problem of our cultural predispositions to doing right and not wrong. Okay, that is without any doubt a problem. But there's also a problem of government not doing what it's supposed to do.
Honor.
And definitely you can't say that it is this and not the other.
Honor, on this tragic accident.
Yeah, first of all, one must naturally express condolences to the bereaved Ugandans and especially the families. And I think while every life matters, this accident was particularly unique in the sense that it claimed quite a number of government officials from the Lango region district. So it was quite very shocking. I met a number of people who personally knew the dead, and you could see how heartbroken they were. And to me, if government is to be faulted, it's not for enforcing road discipline. I think the real tragedy in this country, if you look critically at most, if not all the accidents, it is head-on collision. The only logical way, it may be expensive, it may be long-term, to avoid head-on collision is to have dual carriageway.
Correct.
Wherever you have a dual carriageway, it is very unlikely that you'll have a head-on collision.
Actually, it doesn't happen.
So one of the tragedies you have on Ugandan roads, especially take the road like the Masaka and Mbarara road. One, it's narrow for the volume of cars, it's winding, and it is single carriage. However disciplined the drivers are, there is always an error that would most likely lead to a head-on collision. Otherwise, people losing control on their own, in most cases, would not be a fatal accident.
It would not be as
if we have to do anything about arresting the carnage, it must UNRA squarely factor dual carriaging the highways in its program. To me, in the immediate, you could even choose black spots and dual carriage them. You may not entirely be. I know
you carriage the entire highway.
Yeah, but let's start identifying black spots and create some barriers between the two lanes to minimize head-on collision, which is a real tragedy on our roads. Each time I'm on a highway, including today, I just pray if this was a dual carriage, this is it. One,
Yeah.
it speeds the movement of cars, but above all, it reduces head-on
likelihood.
collision.
And the effect, so the death toll will be
So
significant.
we would rather achieve fewer kilometers of tarmac roads, but let them be safer.
Okay.
Because why have so many kilometers which are single carriage and people keep dying on them? Yeah.
Among the dead is the wife to Professor Winston Mweze. She was buried today, I think in Rukungiri. She was one of the victims of that. Professor Mweze works at Advocates Coalition on Development and Environment as a fellow there, and I think also teaches at Makerere University. And there is a student, this one is injured, Amonyi Lorraine. She's a third-year law student at Makerere. She was injured in that same accident. So when you're talking about people who, who people can be referred to, and there was quite a significant concern in Lira, especially, because this is where the bus originated, and the local reporting was extreme.
Charles, before
the grief that engulfed.
we should not take accidents lightly. I have always said an accident can change the course of a country's history, because you know what it means. Someone you least expected to die can die. So it's very serious that we should not take accident lightly.
This accident, by the way, I think it was...
Please, I'm not talking about the FDC president.
You are talking about somebody else.
One wouldn't be concerned about the FDC president.
No, it's a very important. I mean, the history of the country would change if we lost him.
But Charles, I think this accident was very bad when I read that the bus left Lira with 23 people. And a few more boarded along the way. If you look at how many people actually died, out of how many were on the bus did not have very many people. If it was full with, say, more than 60 people on board, I think it's very likely as many as 40 plus people would have died in that accident.
Yes,
But 22 is really bad.
22 is
It's bad enough, but when you consider how many were, it's like 70–80% of the people who were on the bus actually died.
There was another accident. I think there have been about 2 or 3 accidents on Ginger Road in the last 2 weeks, including a Kakise bus, but that one, fortunately, it didn't have fatalities. But there had been other accidents on that road, and accidents. Masaka Road, now we talk less about it, but accidents all over the country. One of the other major questions I think that hasn't been addressed, and I hope whatever probe is put together will be able to deal with, is the question of roadworthiness of the vehicles. What is the inspection? Because there is the road, the vehicle on the road, and the person driving it, which are very critical. And like you said, I think, Paul, I agree with you, that you don't get a comprehensive report and action points after a particular accident.
Right.
Because
we really don't get to the bottom of this, and there lies in the problem. Because then how are we going to resolve this unless we know the cause of this accident? And, well, we would give the police and the other investigatory authorities the benefit of doubt for now. Let's see what they come up with. But, you know, reports are not just meant to be put in shelves to gather dust. They are supposed to inform decisions.
And prevent,
yes.
The
you know,
likelihood of
just speaking on what Ona has said, it is not like the people in authority do not know what to do. But the will to do that is lacking. And remember, many years ago, there was a promise, and this was reflected in the budgets of, government budgets, that there would be dualing of the carriageway from Malaba up to Katuna. And that was during the time of the Honorable John Asasira.
I've had...
And, you know, this has been the story told. It's been in policy statements of government for years, and nothing gets done. Instead, what you see is new work being done along Masaka Road without the promise of dual carriage.
Dualing it. I think the road between the Jinja Kampala Road, the other day UNRWA invited PPPs for reconstruction of that road, and the plan has been for the last so many decades to dual it. It's one of the most critical roads in this for this country.
Actually, this road, the Ginger Highway, is our most important road.
Yes.
And not just for Uganda, but for like
for the entire region.
five
The
different
lifeline of
countries.
the country.
Yeah.
So if you move from Ginger, which is part of the Great Northern Corridor,
Right.
Masaka Road falls exactly under the same.
Right. Yeah.
There has been there was a
but
promise to
while
do
POA is accusing the government, I have not had FDC promise during the election that it will create dual carriage highway.
Honor, you need to go and look at our manifesto. The most current one is the one of the election.
Gentlemen,
election manifesto of 2016.
let me just take.
You will find all this spelled out in our manifesto.
You promised to do dual carriage road.
We have good intentions for this.
No, in your manifesto you promised dual carriage road. Did you promise dual carriage road?
I wish you could refer to that manifesto.
I'm going to check when we take a break.
Ours is a pledge to have safer roads.
A pledge to have safer roads is
the details
will be worked out. Leslie Amanzuru William is watching us and says, accidents in Uganda most times is a result of human error because of broken moral values. So human lives in our society.
Not only that.
We are in charge of lives that we do not value and respect. I can hear protests from both Dr. Kisa and Onapito to Amanzuru's message. Mteje Asimwe is watching us and says, accidents in Uganda to stay. Drivers buy driving permits. They never go to driving schools.
Yeah.
DMC vehicles pay monthly stipends to traffic police. Drivers drink and drive. Drivers don't follow traffic rules, etc.
Correct.
Those of us who are still surviving are surviving by the grace of God. That's a message from Nteje Asimwe. So we extend, we extend our condolences, especially to all the victims of this accident, all the families, condolences, and especially Dr. Winston Mwezi, who lost his dear wife, and of course that student at Makerere University who is injured, and all those who are injured and getting treatment in hospital. Wish you quick recovery. We'll take a quick commercial break. When we come out of this break, we'll be moving on to discuss the elections in Rukungiri and Bujiri, and I hope the other guests will have joined us so that we have a fairly balanced show to discuss elections. We'll be right back. You're still watching the Fourth Estate, and we started the discussion with the carnage that was the road accident in Chiandongo involving a Gaga bus. It killed 22 people, injured several others. At least 8 of them were evacuated to Mulago Hospital using a military helicopter. And the concerns are many, from very many people. I'll just take these 2 messages that came in for that segment. One is a message from Nicholas Sengova says, also, we need a lot of road transport. We have a lot of road transport. Yeah. We need to have a lot more rail and air to decongest the roads. The roads are way too crowded. We can't agree more with you, Nicholas, on this. Bernard Dempeirwe, watching us in Lubaga, says, I think it's high time this government introduces the issue of points in our driving permits like some Western countries do. Let's say 5 points, for example. If a driver commits a serious traffic offense, they deduct a point or 2. If he commits another offense, they deduct another 2. When you remain with 1 point, you're prohibited from driving for 5 years and sent back to driving school. If you're caught driving, you are imprisoned for years. People will have to be a bit careful. Bernard Impeirwe from Lubaga. He says traffic penalties are not harsh enough. Someone else watching us here says, the proposed PPP Jinja-Kampala Expressway is to be an entirely new road, not improving the current highway. Apparently, PPP projects have to be new projects because there must always be an alternative for those who cannot pay to use the PPP products. I think we don't care. This is Ongwen Sangala, I think. It should be Ongwen Sangala. Yes, I think we shouldn't mind where if the road is there, and it can be used, and it's a better road. Anthony is watching us, I think, from the United States, and he says, Ugandans need to wake up. We need to value lives more than we currently do. The people, the government are all responsible, and we are all not doing enough. For example, if Gaga or any other company has a poor safety record, what are the authorities doing about it? We are tired of same story from police blaming reckless drivers and no serious action taken after every accident. Secondly, if anyone is in their correct state of mind, why would you drive at night without headlights or reflectors? Or why would a bus driver find it to drive ridiculous speeds? We are.
And when it is raining.
When are we, as a society? Where are we as a society? Sorry. When are we as a society going to put more value to human life? And this is a registered company. It's operating and paying taxes. Why not ask more questions? Let me introduce. We've been joined in the studio by the Honorable John Eresu. He represented Kaberamaido constituency in Parliament before,
yes,
in the Constituent Assembly.
Constituent Assembly and Parliament.
And Parliament. And you served in the same Parliament with...
in the 7th Parliament, indeed.
And all of us have been together at one point.
So we have three former members of Parliament. All of them are former members of Parliament. All of them coming from the Teso sub-region.
Because we traveled longer distances.
And we're going to discuss. Honorable Eresu is a member of the National Resistance Movement. Poa is the president of the Forum for Democratic Change.
Onapito represents the State House.
Worked for the president for a few years and has done so many other things. And of course was in Parliament. If he were in Parliament, if there were parties at the time he was there, he would most likely would have been a member of the National Resistance Movement. And of course, I don't know where
I don't belong anywhere.
Dr. Kisa would be if he chose to join Parliament. Let me just take another message which says the Traffic and Road Safety Bill 2018 provides for demerit point system on driving permits. Thank you for that message. We have an election coming up in Bujiri constituency. We have Bujiri municipality. It's a new municipality. We have an election coming up in Rukungiri district. Let me check on the candidates. In Rukungiri district, therefore candidates, I'm told one of them might have quit, stood down for the NRM candidate, but Betty Bamukwasa Muzanira is the candidate for the Forum for Democratic Change. Faith Kukundakwe is candidate for the People's Progressive Party. She might be the one who has stepped down. I need to confirm that. Sheila Tkunda Kirevete, who's an independent candidate, and Priska Sezimbaguta, who's the candidate for the National Resistance Movement, I think.
No, you have missed.
I've missed out. Yes, I've missed out. Winnie Maseko. Yes,
yes.
Winnie Maseko is the NRM candidate.
Yes.
Priska Sezimbaguta is also an independent candidate. In Bujiri constituency, Bujiri municipality, Asmani Basaliwa, president of the Justice Forum Party, Jema, is a candidate.
Not yet.
Intending. He's intending.
Yes.
He's not yet a candidate.
All of them, none of them has been nominated.
Has been nominated, yes. But these are the candidates that we know for Bujiri constituency. Eunice Namatende for the Forum for Democratic Change, and Samaya Siraji Liavala for the National Resistance Movement.
I think the NRM, Honorable Rest will correct me, has not yet done their primaries.
Their primaries, but these are the contenders. Okay.
Yes.
The bigger question is, the Rukungiri one is set. Interesting that the candidate for the PPP who has been, who might have withdrawn, previously when, as a reporter, I knew that PPP, the former party that became PPP, not before PPP, maybe I should leave that detail out for now. the intricate connections that might be interesting for our discussion tonight. But gentlemen, it's an all-male panel. What do these elections really mean in the real sense of the word? I want to start with you, Onapito.
Look, I'm sure our viewers are struggling with most of the names you are reading out because, unfortunately, Parliament has been bastardized and a lot of people have got to Parliament, and maybe partly because of the numbers, the country just cannot follow. Just like the number of districts and the names of districts, you basically lose track of some of these things. So it's interesting that we have the party leaders here who will update us. But to me, the relevance of Parliament, unfortunately, has been also clouded in the perception that it's a money thing. You know, recently there has been this allegation that MPs want to double their salaries. Of course, the Speaker has denied, and we have no reason to doubt ours. But that is the perception the public has out there, that Parliament is an enrichment game. And maybe that's why sometimes you see unnecessary crowding of these by-elections, because everyone is trying to take a shot as a CEO equivalent salary. If you can get it, why not get it? So Parliament is really having that crisis of perception, of relevance. We also know that this is a largely presidential country where everything that matters is because the president of the day decides.
I thought you were going to say that the Speaker has denied and we have every reason to doubt her denial, instead of saying we have every reason to believe her denial, going by the history. But Honorable Resu, you were in Parliament, you're out of Parliament looking in. Parliament has been growing in number. I don't know if that growth has corresponded in effectiveness in delivery, whether legislative or holding the central government accountable. And people ask, we're spending billions of money to conduct these, whether they are new elections or by-elections, from the inside and the outside.
Yeah, first of all, I want to say good evening to all the viewers. I'm sorry to come late because of circumstances beyond me. And secondly, I would like to send my condolences to all those who have gone through the tragedy of the bus accident. Coming to the point,
you could also help me correct the names, because I think I mixed up a few of them, both in Bujiri and Rukungiri.
No, it is okay. Yes. It's okay. I wanted to say, responding to your question right away, the enlargement of Parliament of Uganda can only be placed on the doorsteps of the provisions in the Constitution, that the constitutional provision giving constituencies, I don't know which article it is, because you know it's quite some time I have been reading this book, provides that every county in Uganda is a constituency. Every municipality is a constituency. And as these things increase, so is the number of the representation for those constituencies I've just mentioned. They also increase accordingly. That is the benchmark. In other words, if there is going to be any change or moratorium on that increase, it can be only found in the direction of having those that provision of the Constitution either amended or the change in creating more constituencies stop. But the question is...
just let me understand one thing, Honorable Resu.
Yeah.
Who made those provisions? When were they made, and why did we think about them?
At that time, it was 1994, the CA did it. Yeah. I was part of the Constituent Assembly that provided that the representation in Parliament would ordinarily be measured, I mean, the demarcation of the constituencies would be from counties.
But there was also something about the population.
Yes. There was nothing much in the population. We don't have population as a criteria. We have constituency demarcations, and the county is the measure. That's the thing.
County and then
municipalities. They are also taken as counties. And that's why when this, as population increases, as new demands for new demarcations for new counties and municipalities take place, so you find that we do not have a fixed number of members of Parliament at any one time because of that constitutional provision. And that is the whole thing. So if there is going to be a moratorium on the increase on these things, so will be the defined number or the stoppage for that time of the increase in the members of the Parliament.
I'm surprised you're blaming the Constitution, which is a document that you politicians put together.
No.
Just a moment, because you have, there are areas where the constituency is split into south and north, east and west, increasing the numbers. There's been a whole lot of debate about the functionality of the many districts that have been created in this country, thus increasing the number.
No,
the last time there was, just a moment, Honorable Resu.
Yeah.
The last time there was a major announcement about creation of new districts. the major concern was, one, did you consult with the Electoral Commission? Two, are they functional? Keith Makanizi, the PS, Minister of Finance, has come out and complained about creation of new administrative areas. In political language, this is what has been called gerrymandering.
Correct.
Create these entities so that you can create elective positions, so that you can balloon the number of elected officials. It's pure and simple. So should we really continue to blame the Constitution when the political actors are the ones creating these things and hiding behind the Constitution to say, we have a window here and we are using that window to gerrymander?
I want to tell you this. You must know that the country is a dynamic situation. There is no country which is static. At the time when the Constitution was made was when it was made depending on circumstances and situations of that time. As populations increase, as new challenges arise, as need for administrative structures come into play, because that would create efficiency in the service delivery, then is a need therefore to increase on some of these things, and that is the reason how it becomes of necessity. It is something you cannot do without, that you end up having.
Do you really believe that you can't do without that number of elected officials?
No, I'm not simply saying that overall that is the situation. I'm saying, I'm giving you the background as to why these things change. There are demands which come, and these demands you cannot run away from them, and they are realities. And then when they come, obviously it affects the representation in Parliament. Therefore,
Dr. Kisa, I need to come in here.
Because we have to bear in mind, the country, you see, populations increase, and that is a recurrent fact.
I am taking my question. I'm taking my question actually from that, Dr. Kisa.
Well, but
India is a population of 1.4 billion people. The Lok Sabha, which is the equivalent of a parliament here,
the lower house,
the lower house of parliament,
right,
is 500, I think, 34 or 54 people. Thereabouts.
Yeah.
1.4 billion people.
Correct.
The Raj Sabha is the upper chamber for parliament. Its total number is less than 300 people.
Right.
Uganda, with a population of 41 million people, or thereabouts, today, has close to 500 members of parliament.
Correct. Well, you need
we are trying to resolve unemployment. While
it can be said to be an attempt to resolve unemployment, we must look at the circumstances on the ground. What is India and what pertains to India as a circumstance to create
it is a subcontinent.
Creates a different is a different parameter from what are the factors which are obtained in
India is a subcontinent.
So what circumstances in Uganda warrant having more than 500 members of parliament? What is it about Uganda that makes it necessary to be creating constituencies every other person? There is no sound justification that you can give. First of all, you said that the population has been growing, and yet you are the one who said the constituencies are not created on the basis of the population, of the numbers. They are created on the basis of the units that are created.
I did not say population is a factor. I said circumstances.
What are those circumstances?
One of them being a population. And
but the constituencies are not created because of the numbers.
To me, necessitates expansion and creating new representation.
But do you really believe the argument that this is done such that service delivery is improved? Do you really believe that? Really?
Let's bring in Paul. Because you're president of a political party, you were in parliament before. Just help us understand why this thing keeps ballooning. In the FDC, you've complained about it, but you feel the candidate every time an election falls. You participate.
The long and short of this is that it's being done for political expedience. You know, when a district is created, it's very likely that Honorable Resu and his boss will be the beneficiary. Now, also, under the law, if you looked at the Constitution critically, you will find that Parliament has taken over the duty of the Electoral Commission. It has arrogated the duty of the Electoral Commission, because the Electoral Commission is responsible for creating new constituencies. We would like to see a situation where the Electoral Commission says, well, we are going to have a constituency of 2 counties. That has happened in the past. Nowhere is it written that every county will be granted constituency status. No.
I'm sorry, I don't have a copy of
Well, you would need to refer to your constitution. So the role,
I'm not sure whether
Parliament has arrogated the role. And this is being contested. You might have seen petitions now flying left, right, and center, and letters seeking clarification from the Electoral Commission about the creation of constituencies. And so I think that the Electoral Commission needs to go back and examine the Constitution, find out where it has faltered in its responsibility as an independent Electoral Commission, particularly in the creation of new electoral areas. There is a confusing situation that is now ensuing from Buikwe North constituency. Recently, Parliament has declared a municipality. That municipality...
Is it Parliament or the Minister of Local Government?
It was brought to and approved by Parliament. That municipality is called Njeru. Njeru municipality is exactly the same geographical area as Buikwe North. So one single area has 2 references, 2 names. You have to choose which of the 2 to refer to when referring to that geographical area. That is quite confusing.
Okay,
and it's because
just a moment, sir. Sorry, my apologies. Someone is kind enough. Thank you very much, sir, for sharing with us what the law says. Article 78 of the Constitution, that is under Chapter 6, says Parliament shall consist of A, members directly elected to represent constituencies, B, 1 woman representative for every district, C, such numbers of representatives of the army, youth and workers, persons with disabilities and other groups as Parliament may determine, D, the Vice President and ministers who, if not already elected members of Parliament, shall be ex officio members of Parliament without the right to vote on any issue requiring a vote in Parliament. You have your answer there. Go ahead, sir.
So I was...
But I can say one thing. I think he's getting that thing partially. I wish we had a copy of the Constitution.
This is from the Constitution. It's actually the page. Yes, it's chapter Article 78 of the Constitution.
But the county was designated in the Constitution, and I remember very well, as being an electoral area for a member of Parliament.
Okay.
A county. It was specifically pointed out. I think better go through it and see the difference.
I think the correction is that
of course the concept of a county now is vague.
Yes, no, constituencies. And these constituencies are not necessarily created by the administrative units. I remember going into the into this last election, the 2016 election. Yes. Before that, there was debate because government decided to create a slew of all new administrative units called municipal councils. But created new districts.
No, but forget about that even. I'm not clear on these north-south constituencies which have also been created. And I know there are counties in areas I'm familiar with which have been split into 2 constituencies. Basically, a bunch of sub-counties became a constituency, another bunch. They still remain under one county, one district.
Let's come to that in a moment. I need you to complete because we need to take a break. And when we come back, we'll go into the specific Rukungiri Bujiri elections.
Well, talking about the elections and their significance, again, it is politicking. You know, there is the question of when an election should take place. What is the definition of a by-election as opposed to an election, a general election context is?
I'm just surprised, Paul, that you, as the major opposition political party, have joined in this politicking.
Don't get surprised. Our business is in politics as a political party and to win power. And you do that by increasing your numbers, even in positions of responsibility. Otherwise, we'll just close shop.
When do you stand for
Is
principle?
that
When do you stand for principle and say, one, even if you won one, two other,
one extra
seat or two extra seats in parliament,
why
it
do
wouldn't
we
make a
go
difference.
into, that's the gist of the matter. Why do we go to an election? It's not only about winning political position. It's about mobilizing support across the country.
That's a better rationale.
Yes,
a better argument
it's about that. Remember that we are an endangered species, being run after by the police whenever we go out to mobilize support. And so we have got to be ingenious in this. We've got to know what to do in order to circumvent this. Now, these elections and those that came before provided a golden opportunity for us in the FDC to go and mobilize. I will tell you that Rukungiri is not going to be the same again. All these new electoral areas, Palisa will not be the same again when we get there.
Okay.
There's an upcoming election in Palisa. I don't know why you chose to address your mind to
Bujiri and Rukungiri. Okay. and there is also an election coming up in Shema municipality, where an existing member of parliament, who is also a minister, has decided to get nominated.
Unbelievable.
Someone sent me a message and said, kindly comment about the current situation in Shema, where Dr. Lyoda Tumwesije is a current member of parliament
and a minister
standing to represent another constituency.
Well, still holding
next to his in a by-election going on. Where is the legality in this? Bernard Mpeiru is asking the question.
I just think it's really ridiculous.
Let's take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we'll go specific to discussing the elections and the dynamics happening, especially in Rukungiri, where every top official of the major political parties, the National Resistance Movement and the Forum for Democratic Change, are camped, combing that area. I know the president is supposed to be there. I think President Museveni, chairman of the NRM, is supposed to be there campaigning, and Dr. Kiza Besigye has been camped there. Henry Tumukunde, the former minister of Internal Affairs, of security rather, has rejoined the political fray in a very serious way and has been camped there, combing the constituency for votes. We'll be right back. And Jim Muhwezi have been camped there. We'll be right back. Welcome back to this last segment of the fourth estate, discussing elections, the by-elections, the elections in Rukungiri and Bujiri. There is an election going to happen in, because that nomination had taken place already, in Shema municipality, formerly Bushenyi district. It's been split in so many small things there, and so many new constituencies.
It is
I think now it has
one district which resisted being split up for a long time, but eventually when they caved in, it's been chopped up.
It was chopped into 5 districts, and new municipalities created. I think you have Bushenyi Shaka municipality, you have now Shema municipality. I don't know which others are there. Someone is asking a question. Anthony is asking a question, I think, to John Elesu. He says, would you support a proposal that fixes the total parliamentary budget such that if they choose to increase the members of parliament midterm, the salary and emoluments for all members decreases proportionately to accommodate the new MPs instead of appropriating new money from the central government? What your quick view about that?
Well, I think my take is that members of parliament get money that enables them to work. And so if you are going to use that formula, then they will not just get to work.
Okay. Dr. Kisa, your quick thought on that.
Well, they will not do it because they determine their own emoluments, and so that's, it's a dead end. It's not going to happen.
I think the whole idea we should create a paradigm shift of making representation be tagged to money. Because the moment we do that, we lose the very concept of representation.
Honor. Look, Honor, you had suggested once in your life as a member of parliament that ministers should not be MPs.
Yeah,
and you lost you and General
that debate is still alive. But on the issue of payment for MPs, because MPs have been made more than, to do what they shouldn't do, I'm actually a strong advocate of giving them more money and taking part of that money away from the bureaucracy, and they control it for purpose of implementation. Because there is, right from the president, an MP has been assumed to be able to do things The president goes to a place and says, your MP is not doing this, while the district officials who are supposed to do it are not doing it. So get more money from the civil servants, give it to the MPs, and let them do the things they want to do. Buy more ambulances and what have you, which they are trying to do with their own money. I mean, we have to face the reality as it is.
It's a fairly cynical view of a representation.
It's not being cynical, it's a realistic view. I'm sure MPs out there are saying that is the man we want.
No. First of all,
I'm afraid we need to move on and go to the specific elections. What is at stake for you, Ereso, in Rukungiri? It's one of the most talked about constituencies. The one in Shema North, it's largely because of Elioda.
Yeah.
And he's being an MP and a candidate at the same time.
Yeah, Winnie Masiko is an NRM candidate in Rukungiri. There are also a lot of other candidates there. But I think the whole idea is the people of Rukungiri do realize what they want. It's not all about political contestation for the sake of it. But I think a midterm election like the one they are having basically means if you vote to challenge the status quo, you basically create a situation of pulling yourself backwards from a progress that is already in place. And I think that's what is in their mind. Well, the campaigns are going on. The FDCs are very busy mobilizing. The KB is very much in place. The chairman, my brother Muriat Poa here, is very much is going tomorrow. Yes. But I think the people of
all the top NRM people are in Rukungiri.
Yes.
I tried to speak to them yesterday, and
yes, majority
of them.
But I think the basic thing is a midterm election does not necessarily need to deviate from a government that is in place. Outside it, you lose it all for the next period that has remained.
Look,
what would you,
I think
yes, Anna.
Before the politicians, for me, looking at those pictures and hearing the names you say on the ground, basically, Rukungiri is a political ego battle. I mean, we know that a lot of NRM people are supposed to be originated from Rukungiri, but somehow, due to Kizza Besigye's influence, there has been some defection, so to say. So the president is keen to remove that anomaly in a region where he enjoys a lot of support. And I think he sort of irritates him while Besigye enjoys that irritation and wants to whip it up by hopefully winning the seat away from the NRM. Otherwise, it's not as big a thing as the junior wants to make it.
Do you think, yes, the president's desire, people said just before the nominations took place, the president was in Rukungiri and spent 5 billion shillings in that constituency, which has been a major talking point and might actually tilt this election either way, depending on how the people perceive it, because Besigye has been riding on it and the FDC people with power here, the NRM has been trying to downplay the motivation for spending that money in that constituency just before the nomination. Do you think that will impact the final outcome?
Yeah, I think the voters are likely to appreciate the presidency effort. So how did
I think that there's a lot that we as a country will stand to benefit out of the outcome in Rukungiri.
Like?
We know that in our politics, bribery has been the mainstay. And this is something that has always been propagated by the NRM. The 5 billion could not have been really just an innocent development program. Because anybody would ask, why would it come back to back with an election? You know?
But
why? Why didn't it come earlier? And this is a question that we asked the Electoral Commission. And you know, they fell short of answers. Now, we had a very nice nomination. Very well attended, you know, very good messages passed across by the speakers. But what was significant about that nomination, the rally at the playground in Rukungiri, was the number of people who came, you know, to bring back 10% of what they had been given.
They were tasting, eh?
Yes, and you know, to say, look, in open, in broad daylight, saying, I am so and so. coming from such and such an area, such and such a village or ward. I was given money under such and such a group, and I have brought 10% to give it to the people's president.
Honorable
Now,
Amriat, a quick
if
question.
Rukungiri tells the rest of the country that money just cannot work, I think the manner in which money is spent in the election is going to change. If that 5 billion shillings is defeated flatly, then I think the NRM would have to think twice before spending money to drive voters.
Honorable Amriat, the people who look at this election as a kind of referendum against Dr. Kizza Besigye, do you in the party look at it in the same way?
Not at all.
Why not?
We are just doing our work of mobilization. Whatever the outcome of this election, the winner is going to be the FDC.
Why do you think so? How?
Our ability, our capacity to mobilize, has caused change in Rukungiri. We know that these elections in Uganda have got their own problems.
Dr. Kizza.
There is the issue, let me just finish this point. Money being used in an election could influence the outcome of an election. Intimidation. I understand trucks, loads of police and military are moving into Rukungiri. I got a report today. They're actually focusing on a certain sub-county in Rukungiri.
Which one is that?
And Bwambara. And then they will be going to Nyarushenje. All this has happened in the case of Ginger. So an outcome of election may not necessarily reflect the will of the people. But for us as the FDC, we know that having an extra member of parliament is good, all right, but what is the significance of our parliament? That is dominated by the executive, that is bulldozed by the executive. You saw what happened in December last year. The military took over parliament. MPs were beaten up and bundled and not taken to jail.
That's the question I keep asking.
And today we have business as usual in the house.
That's the question I keep asking. Why do you legitimize what you say is an illegitimate process?
In fact, after
the
last election, the view from the leadership of the FDC was it was basically going to boycott government as we know it, including parliament.
We went into the last election for the purpose of mobilization.
But I find
I would like to say, when you look at the population today, no.
I find him very contradictory.
There is no contradiction whatsoever.
Give me a minute. You see, Poa has told us that there is a lot of bribery in this election in Rukungiri. Why is it that money, the 5 billion, was there at the time when election was coming and not before? As if he's trying to suggest that the government should not function. That government only functioned in Rukungiri at a time when there was election. The president went there and gave what he gave because there's a government in place and Rukungiri happened to have been the place he went to. And therefore, whatever happened
was by
there
design
was
to go to
Rukungiri. Government. That is your perception. That is the perception problem.
Number two. Just hold it a moment.
Yeah.
The president carrying money in a sack or in whichever form he carried it is not
very primitive act.
evidence of a functional government. No, whichever way you look at it, is not evidence of a functional government. It might represent a functional presidency, but it doesn't reflect a functional government.
Look at it.
Yes.
The president went there as a president of Uganda to fulfill certain pledges, right?
Did you want him to use mobile money?
Did you want him to use
so many accounts to send money to.
And how many accounts? Now, on another matter, when he said that there was a nomination and people took back the money, how do we know that was not a political ploy by FDC themselves?
Is it
Can you justify it?
Does it concern you, Honorable Bereso?
So, no. These are all campaign tactics being deployed by
does it concern you? Does it concern you that
gaining political mileage? that the people are resigning from NRM, getting from NRM, and taking to FDC. How don't you? Who can prove that those are not FDC themselves?
Let me ask a question. Let me ask a question to you,
That's a possibility. Finally,
yes.
I'm still talking about this contradiction. He said that, look, what might come out of Rukungiri may not reflect the will of the people. I heard it very carefully. At the same time, he says he's going to win in Rukungiri. Are you trying to suggest, therefore, that your win is a fallacy?
He's preparing the
ground. He's preparing the ground for every eventuality, whether they win or they lose. But
Rukungiri is very important because, as we know, it's the backyard, it's the home of the most eminent FDC leader, Dr. Kizza Besigye. So Rukungiri is the battleground on that account, and I think FDC has to overcome whatever roadblocks that may be thrown in front of their candidate, whether it's money or intimidation or whatever state apparatus that is being used against them. The FDC has to show that it can win in the backyard of its leader, because they have won in other places where similar tactics have been used against them, including most recently in Jinja and in places like Kasese.
I think one thing that
is very critical, because
one thing that you need to note is that
even as we stand, let him conclude his point.
Today, I just wanted to give this information. We have got 2 seats. Rukungiri, 2 members of parliament.
I was actually going to say that Rukungiri is the one place in southwestern Uganda where FDC has a fairly sizable presence in terms
has made some inroads.
Yep, has won elections there, and so this election is very important, because if FDC wins, then they strengthen their stronghold on Rukungiri district, and NRM, on the other hand, they want to push back against having FDC presence anywhere in southwestern Uganda, because part of the ruling strategy for the NRM and the president has been to ensure that southwestern Uganda is a no-go area for the opposition, and maintain absolute majority from southwestern Uganda, and Rukungiri is one place that has kind of undermined that wish or that strategy of having everything in southwest.
I think by the look of things, we could win this seat, judging from the enthusiasm of the people, the energy, of the voters, the effort that has been put into this campaign by our campaign team. Dr. Kizza Besigye has camped in Rukungiri. He is going from village to village, together with key leaders of our party. And I think they have got a message to pass to the people. Vote NRM, and you are voting betrayers. You see, they betrayed us in the amendment of the Constitution and removed 75-year term limit. So this is really an extension of Tojikwatako.
Mr. President, I think the contradiction journalist was pointing out, FDC must really be confusing its supporters, some of them. Just hold on. At the tail end of the last general election, really your view was that elections in this country don't work, because the system is a military regime, and the only thing that can change it is popular defiance, resistance. But then at some moments again, you seem to believe that elections can change things. So which is which?
In the post nomination press conference, our presidential candidate was very clear. He said, we are going into this thing for the purpose of mobilizing the population. We just can't sit back. And I think, what we did paid dividend. We actually mobilize the population. Ugandans today
but you also
are completely. Can I finish this?
Can I give you the statistics?
Ugandans today are more capable of rising against the establishment, more than ever before. And we've done this over a long period of time. 10 years ago, Ugandans would accommodate, being hard pressed. They have a bad road, they don't talk about it. Today they will demonstrate. they are going to plant matoke in the middle of the road.
I thought that was more prevalent a few years ago, not today.
No.
And, in a read of the political environment in
no,
this country, would read it significantly differently today.
Mr. President,
More awareness has
can
been created.
Can I give you the statistics? If you are saying that you have been doing these things for purposes of creating political awareness and increasing your viability, how come your representation has constantly reduced compared to the previous presence of FDC in Parliament, for example? How come in local government your representation has also decreased?
Reduced by what numbers?
When you use those parameters, you just go wrong.
Because
in the analysis.
What I'm trying to say is the representation of even at a nomination level for the local government, for example, FDC did not fill candidates in all the electoral areas for local government just as much as in Parliament as well. Meaning, therefore, that you have actually what is it called? Resigned from certain areas and remain in certain areas. So, what expansive capacity have you created?
If you are going to measure the strength of
because
a political party only by the number of seats that they win, then you get it wrong.
How do you measure the strength of the party?
As I have told you, in Uganda, the elections that are conducted are skewed in one direction.
But you're reading from the Book of Lamentations.
No, not at all.
You're reading from the Book of Lamentations, which I think is the problem with our politics, especially opposition politics.
Picking on from what John Ereso has just been arguing, would you say FDC, just taking the example of Parliament and their numbers, which stand at about 8%, would you think that is the total support of the FDC across the country?
I don't know. You're the party president.
Even with
I don't know what you think.
Can I just finish?
Yes.
Even with the percentage that was allocated to Dr. Kizza Besigye, our flag bearer, 28% allocated, which we disputed. Which we disputed.
Honorable Boy, Honorable Muriat, as the party president, if you say you cannot influence the direction of legislation in the country, gentlemen, if you cannot influence the direction of legislation in Parliament simply on account of being overwhelmed by the numbers of your major opponent, the NRM, your scorecard would be to add one constituency after another. When you won the Jinja Municipality East by-election with Muiru, Paul Muiru, you add that and say we have made some inroads. I would think, Honorable, I'm coming back to you. The question of numbers which we started with tilts the balance significantly. But if you're looking at Western Uganda, and particularly Rukungiri, FDC has moved to 2 constituencies now that they control. They have presence in Ntungamo municipality, with an independent, yes, but who's FDC winning. They have control over the entire Kasese. They have Vuhweju, which kind of creates
an inroad.
Creates a kind of link, a conduit, that I do not know if in the NRM is a cause of concern for you. Because I know you and I know that Kabale has been a bit stubborn, a bit difficult, even if NRM has majority control there. Kanungu, I don't know where it is. You have your former Secretary General, who is a power broker there, and has not come back into the party. He might have not completely left with TDA, but does that concern you?
Every part of Uganda and every constituency is a concern of the party, because the idea is that we must have control, just like any other political party must fight for.
You want to have control over everything.
Yes, just like FDC had capacity. If they had capacity, they would also do that, and like any other party. That's why you see the DPs are now trying to create a situation of realigning themselves in the hope that that way they will now create capacity. We have concern for everything, and that's why we are present in Rukungiri campaigning. Because we want to take back what we think can be lost, and we want to make gain of that which is there. so that we actually do not find ourselves completely out of Rukungiri.
The overwhelming number
Look, I
of
think
independents
before
are
you
from the
come in,
NRM.
for
Yes.
me, it's also, maybe you need to ask yourself, to what end? The NRM has an absolute majority, so to say.
Yes.
But over time and again, the president, the leader, often complains about the MPs not doing their work. So maybe you actually need fewer NRM MPs to just create a bit of reaction.
Maybe
There's just too much majority.
Honor, picking from your
there's
question.
an inertia.
Honor, picking from your
maybe
question.
what
What is the value of these numbers?
Yeah, that's the point.
Of,
to what
of
end?
NRM
Yes.
representation.
Yes.
But the fact is, you cannot say because I have enough, therefore enough is enough.
Create an aura of invisibility
Party,
for the
a
regime.
party, any other party or any other party all over the world must have numbers.
I hear you on that. That's not consistent.
We have numbers
over.
to do something.
And why do you say it is not functional?
With the electoral
In which
commission,
aspect
with the
do you
electoral
have
commission announcing a schedule for holding local council one elections, this country will have slightly over about 2.1 million elected positions in this country. What value do they serve? Is the question.
You don't blame that on NRM.
No. I'm asking. I'm not blaming anybody. I'm asking what value do they serve?
They serve in administration, which is how the Constitution has provided for it. We are following the Constitution as it should be, to the letter. Because if it is not done as it is, the only thing you can say is that, do we need a constitutional review?
You're a former member of parliament. You're a former member of parliament.
No.
My question is clear. What do these numbers serve? The justification aside, what do they serve? What value do they serve in your former constitution in Kabaramaido?
Yes.
With or without that number of elected officials, does it change anything? Rukungiri,
let me help answer the question. They serve to create layers and positions for patronage, for getting people, as one of people was saying, people who are unemployed getting jobs. But the most important thing is that they are functional for the regime in terms of distributing patronage, having agents and an army of handlers, okay, who are doing the bidding for the regime. And the feature of ruling by absolute majority is a decisive feature of authoritarian systems.
Okay.
You see, there is no democratic system that will have absolute majority.
See, there is a lot of mindset in this thing which is biased. These are elective positions, right?
Yes.
Anybody is free to stand for them, right? Or from whatever political party and beliefs, isn't it? Therefore, when you bring in the concept of patronage, you bring the concept of regime, what?
No, but just ask you, what do they serve? What do all these elective positions serve?
Can I finish what I'm trying to put so that you get me clear? The point is, if everybody can stand, any political party member can stand and can tilt and can change and can get elected by thereof, the question of patronage doesn't arise. Because any other party, an FDC will be elected,
there is no party competition. What you have, listen, what you have,
I wish
you have FDC and other parties competing against the state of Uganda. There's no party called NRM. It's not there.
That is your perception.
I was hoping that you'd tell me that your delivery, because we elect a government to deliver services, that they are more effective because you have a lot of representation. I would listen to I would hear that effectively. But then what you also don't look at, what you haven't argued, which he has been laboring to explain, is that you have the state helping and the rules tilted in favor of the party that holds power. And that obstacle, I don't know if you look at it. Gentlemen, I'm afraid our time is out. We need to get out of here.
Actually, Charles,
can you comment about Rukungiri?
Just before I do that, our problem is that, those institutions are fused with the state. And over the years, the NRM party has used LC1s as their own functionaries.
And the problem of Ugandans watching you...
And I think it's
the problem of
totally wrong.
Yes, the problem of Ugandans watching you is that you have read from the Book of Lamentations instead of actually changing when you have been promising the change. Comment about Bujiri.
That's what I was saying.
And I understand you guys have failed to agree with your other opposition members, especially Jema, to field one candidate.
Well, it's true we have gone through the rigor of a process trying to bring the two together and hopefully backing one opposition candidate in Bugiri. As of late last week, as late as Friday, it became clear that JEMA was not willing to subject their candidate through the process that we agreed. And just for the benefit of viewers, the process entailed carrying out a joint and quick survey to determine the strength of either candidate, and then later going to the population in a rally formation where all of us as the opposition would be involved, and from that would be able to zero on a candidate who would carry the opposition flag and cause a win in Bugiri municipality.
And
so
the FDC,
be it as it may,
yes.
It now looks like the FDC will be fielding a candidate, just like Justice Forum will be doing. And it does not mean that there is any significant departure from our cooperation that we've enjoyed in the past. It is just for the sake of this particular election that we failed to agree, and it doesn't mean that we're not going to work together.
Someone would ask why you wouldn't lend your infrastructure and your strength to whoever candidate you think can represent the opposition, if not particularly your own. But our time is out. We need to get out of here. Dr. Kisa, let me come to you as we bring this shot to an end. We focused on Rukungiri and Bugiri. Do you think, what do you make of the failure by especially the opposition to work together to add the numbers of opposition in parliament?
Well, it's a problem because opposition are better off pooling their resources and working together. When they are divided, they become easy prey to the state machinery that they are competing against. So if they can't agree on a common front in Bugiri, too bad for them. They would have been better off if they found some common ground and came together to support one candidate. It has worked for them in almost all the by-elections they have won. They have won by working together. It should be a clear lesson that that is the winning strategy for them. Now, if they can't take it up and use it in Bugiri as well, too bad for them.
Honorable Resu, your last word on this. Do you think do you think Bugiri is also for you to take, or Rukungiri?
Yeah, we are going to take Bugiri very well, because it is quite clear that the opposition in Bugiri, not that I don't want to talk about their divisions and lack of cooperation, because that doesn't concern me. I only know that they want to test themselves politically there, which they think these ones, what are they called? FDC and then JEMA. They want to test themselves to see who is much of the person there. They are going to go to a survey to determine, like the chairman, president has said, that they are going to do a sample survey to find out who has a
I think they crossed that bridge already.
Yeah, if they have crossed that, it's all fine. But we are strategizing, taking advantage of everything and making sure that NRM wins.
Honor, your last word on this.
Yeah,
you have elections. The Rukungiri one is happening on 31st March.
I think, as I've already indicated, these elections to me are not so critical. Uganda is a quasi-military political system, and generally it's considered to be a country in transition from that to a potential political party, a fair playing field. The question is, will political parties be critical in that transition, or it will be the military that will be critical? I think we have lessons from some countries like Zimbabwe, which to me tell that we may not necessarily have to put a lot of premium on political parties and their antics.
Gentlemen, our time is out. Thank you very much for making time for the show. Of course, we didn't discuss that deal between Arsenal and Rwanda, Visit Rwanda, which has been making the rounds on, and especially social media. I see some UK papers and members of parliament from the Netherlands getting into an engaging, quite intense debate about the leadership in Rwanda. And one paper in the United Kingdom questioned why the United Kingdom gives Rwanda £64 million and $30 million is going to go sponsor Arsenal, and in quite uncharitable and charitable terms, and also that debate, engaging debate with. But for Arsenal supporters, they must be excited that one of the major supporters of Arsenal, President Paul Kagame, has decided to put money into the club he supports to promote tourism in Rwanda. Someone joked and said, if you put that $30 million into developing football in Rwanda, in 5 years, you'd have bigger promotion than you'd get out of sponsoring Arsenal Football Club. In tapping talent. But everybody has different ways of trying to promote tourism into their country, and we'll be watching that very closely. Thank you very much to you, Patrick Amriat Oboy, President of the Forum for Democratic Change. Yes, POA. Yes. Been very nice to have you on the show.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Moses Kisa, for making time for the show.
Thank you, Charles.
Thank you very much, Dr. Honorable John Eresu, former Member of Parliament for Kaberamaido constituency.
Charles, thank you for inviting me.
And of course,
it's my first time coming here, by the way.
Ah.
Yeah, and I got. That's why I'm late. I know.
You get lost because you know they played you.
It's just it means things are starting to happen again.
It's very interesting that we actually picked you out when you are already not in Parliament and not holding a position like POA does. And then always a pleasure to have you on the show. Next time we'll do this in Ateso, because we could have done that. We could have easily done that. Thank you very much.
To take lessons in Ateso.
I can say a few things.